When I think about impulse specifically, I think about impact. So whether that's two football players colliding on the football field, or whether it's a soccer player's foot kicking a ball, or somebody landing onto a surface. So impulse is the product of force and time. And so when you increase the time it takes for that impact to occur, then the forces that are felt by whoever's involved in that impact will decrease. And that comes into play because of the conservation of momentum. So it's a powerful tool to use in my research, for example, looking at somebody landing from a drop landing, so stepping off of a platform and landing on their feet. If they land all at once, they're going to experience a significant force, and that force can be felt in the foot, the ankle, and it travels up the kinetic chain. You'll hear people talk about feeling an impact at the base of their spine, or even up into their neck and their skull. And that happens because the time it takes for them to slow down is so incredibly small. So you have a low amount of time, a large impact force. If you increase the amount of time it takes for that impact to occur, then you can decrease the forces that are acting. So for example, again, somebody landing from a drop landing, if they land and they kind of bounce as they land, then that increases the time interval over which the person is slowing down, and so that will drop the forces that person is feeling, and ultimately keep that person injury free. When you bend your knees, you're providing more time for the landing to end, for the impact to occur, and so when you do that, you're increasing the amount of time it takes. And so that comes with a decrease in the amount of force that you're feeling. So the knee bending is a protective mechanism that the body uses. If you didn't bend your knee, so if this is your lower leg and this is your upper leg, if you didn't bend your knee, then you would basically just drive your femur right into your tibia. That is problematic. And so that's why you bend your knee. Cushioning can increase the amount of time it takes for an impact to occur. So if you have a gymnastics mat, for example, or a padded helmet or something like that. So the impact initially will happen, but it takes time for that cushioning to deform, and so that allows the energy to kind of dissipate while it's deforming, and the peak forces will be lower on the thing that you're trying to protect, whether it's the head or the lower extremity if you're landing on a mat or whatever. Concussion research, for example, has been very big in the last few years with lawsuits against the NFL and so forth. And one of the responses to trying to prevent or reduce the impact of concussions has been to design a better helmet. And so you'll see, Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, for example, he wears a helmet that, it's this huge, massive thing. And so there's this idea that if you add more cushioning, that this is more protective to the person's head and can potentially reduce concussions. What we're finding, though, is that it's kind of a double-edged sword, that yes, you get a minimal reduction in impact forces from this increase in the helmet cushioning, but because of that, athletes are starting to actually use the helmets as weapons. So they don't feel the impact forces that they would feel in a lesser designed helmet, and so they're actually starting to use their head as a weapon. So they're starting to tackle with the actual helmet, whereas in the past, because the helmets were so bad, basically, a person would try and avoid tackling with their head, so they would use the shoulder or the arms or wrap them up or whatever. But now with the advances in helmet design, people are driving their helmets into the person they're trying to tackle, for example, and that's significantly worse because they're experiencing significantly more forces on the helmet itself. So the cushioning, again, is kind of a double-edged sword. It protects, it provides some protection, but it allows the person to perform more dangerous acts, basically, which is potentially more injurious to the person's head or their neck. General Motors actually did a study on this. They were looking at potentially cushioning their dashboards as a protective mechanism for people during car accidents. And so they were going to put, I forget what it was, like something like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch of foam around the entire dashboard, and so, they said this would be good for the driver in a car crash. And somebody said, well, that's just ridiculous, and they showed this by, they put a 1/2 inch of foam around a baseball bat and they hit a watermelon off of a tee and it just annihilated the watermelon. So when you're talking about forces that are involved in, say, a car crash or a football tackle, the forces are so incredibly high that no amount of cushioning is going to render the person completely safe during that impact.